The humble cleaning lady had to bring her 5-year-old daughter to work. And the millionaire's gesture was, subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The sound of rain hammering against the corrugated metal roof of the small apartment in the Oakwood Terrace housing project echoed like drums announcing a war. Camila Rodriguez, 28, stood motionless before the bedroom window, watching the flooded streets of the low-income neighborhood in Chicago where she'd lived for 5 years. Her hands, calloused from years of work, held tight to the small, cold fingers of her son, Gabriel, 5, who clung to her thin legs, still in his Spider-Man pajamas. "Mommy, will school be open today?" Gabriel asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes as he peered through the fogged-up window at the trees being lashed by the strong wind. Camila sighed deeply, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility pressing on her chest. She was a small woman, 5 feet 3 inches, with brown hair always pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her dark eyes held a determination forged by necessity, but today they revealed the worry she was trying to hide from her son. "No, sweetheart. The school called early and said there's no school because of the heavy rain. The streets are too dangerous," she replied, kissing the boy's forehead as her old Motorola phone vibrated for the 3rd time that morning. It was Mrs. Davis, the cleaning supervisor from the subcontracting company where she worked. The voice message crackled through the speaker. "Camila, I expect you to be at work today. Dr. Roberts' house has important visitors next week, and it needs to be spotless. I know it's raining, but he pays very well, and we can't afford absences." Gabriel noticed the tension on his mother's face and squeezed her hand tighter. "Mommy, are you worried?" "No, sweetie. Mommy's just thinking," she lied, forcing a smile as she walked to the tiny kitchen of the 2-room apartment. The old refrigerator hummed loudly, and a health clinic calendar was taped to it with May 15th, 2024 circled, the day the rent was due. Camila's financial situation was tight, like a knot in her throat. She worked as a cleaning lady at the mansion of businessman Robert Sterling 3 times a week, earning $800 a month. In addition, she cleaned 2 other houses and sold homemade brownies outside her son's school. Even so, the money barely covered rent, basic bills, and food. "Can't Grandma Betty stay with me today?" Gabriel asked, referring to his maternal grandmother, Elizabeth, a 67-year-old woman who lived in the same housing project 2 blocks away. "No, sweetheart. Remember Grandma went to the hospital yesterday? She's having another blood sugar problem," Camila explained, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. Her mother had been admitted the previous night due to a diabetic crisis, and the public hospital doctors still had no discharge date. Gabriel nodded with the seriousness of someone who had learned too early about life's difficulties. He was a bright child, with curly brown hair like his mother's and large eyes that seemed to understand more of the world than he should for his age. Camila looked at the digital clock on the microwave, 6:47 a.m. She needed to be at the mansion in Lincoln Park by 8 a.m. sharp. The bus ride usually took an hour and 15 minutes, but with the rain and traffic, it would be impossible to arrive on time if she didn't leave soon. "Gabby, Mommy needs to tell you something important," she said, kneeling down to be at eye level with her son. "Today, Mommy has to bring you to work. You have to be very well-behaved and stay quiet, okay?" Gabriel's eyes lit up. "I'm going to see the rich man's house." "Yes, sweetheart. But you have to promise me you'll be quiet. You won't touch anything, and you'll do everything Mommy tells you. This job is very important for us." "I promise, Mommy. Can I bring my cars?" Camila hesitated. Robert Sterling was known for being a demanding but fair boss. In the 2 years she had worked for him, she had never had any problems, but she had also never broken any rules. Bringing a child to a mansion where she performed domestic services could result in immediate dismissal. But what if she didn't go to work? She couldn't afford to miss a day's pay. Every dollar counted, especially now with her mother's medical expenses piling up. "You can bring them, but only 3 small cars. And they'll stay in your backpack until I say you can play with them." They agreed, sealing the pact with a tight hug. While preparing a simple snack, bread with margarine and a banana, Camila reflected on the decision she was making. Robert was an enigmatic man, 45, who had inherited a construction company from his father and transformed it into a technology empire for civil construction. She knew little about his personal life, only that he lived alone in that huge mansion and worked very late. "Mommy, why did Daddy go away?" Gabriel asked suddenly, as he put on his old but clean sneakers. The question hit Camila like a punch in the stomach. Rodrigo had disappeared when Gabriel was 3, leaving only a note saying he wasn't ready to be a father and a pile of credit card debt. Since then, she had raised her son alone, with occasional help from her mother. Daddy had to go away, sweetheart. But that doesn't matter, because the two of us are a complete family, aren't we? Gabriel nodded, but Camila saw the sadness in his eyes. It was a wound that never completely healed, neither for her nor for him. At 7:15 a.m., mother and son left the apartment. The rain had lessened slightly, but the streets were still flooded. Camila carried her work bag, a canvas tote with basic cleaning supplies, and her uniform, while Gabriel lugged a small backpack containing his toy cars and a sketchbook. The bus stop was crowded with wet, irritated people. Children cried in their mother's arms. Men nervously checked their phones, worried about being late for work, and elderly people grumbled about the public transportation delays. Camila pulled Gabriel closer, shielding him from the throng. Route 875 to 10, Lincoln Park via Lakeshore Drive. The bus driver yelled as the already packed bus finally arrived. The ride was a nightmare. Camila and Gabriel were squeezed between other passengers. The boy nearly suffocated against the stomach of a man who smelled strongly of cigarettes and sweat. With each pothole, the crowd swayed like a human pendulum. "Mommy, I'm scared," Gabriel whispered, clutching her shirt. "I know, sweetheart, but we'll be there soon. You'll see how beautiful the house is." It was 9:20 a.m. when they finally got off the bus on Lakeshore Drive. Camila was frantic about being late, knowing Robert was punctual and her tardiness wouldn't go unnoticed. The walk to the mansion took another 15 minutes. Gabriel was awestruck by the enormous houses, the perfectly manicured lawns, and the imported cars parked in the garages. It was a world completely different from the apartment complex where they lived. "Mommy, the people who live here are really rich, aren't they?" he asked, watching a black BMW slowly pass by. "They are, sweetheart. That's why we need to be very respectful and polite." Robert's mansion was at the end of a cul-de-sac, surrounded by high walls and electronic gates. It was an imposing neoclassical structure with white columns at the entrance and gardens that looked like they'd been plucked from a design magazine. Camila pressed the intercom button with trembling hands. Gabriel hid behind her legs, impressed by the size of the property. "Good morning, this is Camila. Sorry I'm late, Dr. Robert. The rain," she began to explain when the businessman's deep voice cut off the transmission. "Camila, you're late. And is someone with you?" The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. Gabriel looked at his mother, sensing her tension, and instinctively squeezed her hand. "Dr. Robert, I can explain. It's my son, Gabriel. School was canceled because of the storm, and my mother is hospitalized. I didn't have anyone to leave him with, and—" "Come in," was the curt reply, followed by the sound of the electronic gate opening. As they walked down the stone path leading to the main entrance, Camila felt as if she were walking toward her own judgment. At the same time, a part of her admired the courage she'd shown. Perhaps, for the first time in years, she had made a decision based not just on survival, but on the possibility that things could work out. The massive wooden door opened, revealing Robert Sterling in all his imposing presence. Tall, at 6 feet 1 inch, he had broad shoulders that perfectly filled the Italian navy blue suit he wore even indoors. His graying temples contrasted with the dark brown of the rest of his hair, always combed back with gel. His brown eyes, piercing behind his discreetly framed glasses, examined mother and son with an expression Camila couldn't decipher. "Good morning, Dr. Robert. Again, I apologize for being late," and Camila started to speak rapidly, but was interrupted by a wave of his hand. "Come in. You're soaked," he said, stepping aside. His voice carried the natural authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question, but there was something different in it today, perhaps surprise, perhaps curiosity. Gabriel clung even tighter to his mother's hand as they stepped into the entrance hall. The Carrara marble floor gleamed under the light of the crystal chandelier hanging from the double-height ceiling. The walls were adorned with contemporary art pieces that cost more than Camila earned in 5 years. "Wow." Gabriel breathed softly, his eyes wide as they took in every detail of the luxurious surroundings. Robert watched the boy's reaction attentively. It had been years since anyone had shown genuine awe upon entering his home. People in his social circle were accustomed to luxury. Employees maintained a professional demeanor. But the genuine and innocent admiration of that child touched something within him that had long been dormant. "You must be Gabriel," Robert said, crouching down to meet the boy's gaze. "Your mother has told me about you." Gabriel quickly looked at Camila, seeking approval before answering. She nodded, encouraging him. "Hi, sir. Sorry we came to your house without warning. Mommy said you're very important," Gabriel replied with the brutal honesty of children. An almost imperceptible smile played on the corner of Robert's mouth. "Important? That's one way of looking at it. And what do you think is important in life?" "Not making mommy sad," Gabriel replied without hesitation, causing Camila to blush deeply. Robert felt something tighten in his chest. He rose slowly, his eyes still fixed on the boy. "Camila, I need to talk to you." "Gabriel, could you stay here at the entrance for a moment?" "Yes, sir," Gabriel replied, pulling one of his toy cars from his backpack, a battered yellow metal Volkswagen Beetle that had been a gift from his grandmother. Robert guided Camila a few steps toward the office, but still within Gabriel's line of sight. The office was masculine and elegant. A mahogany bookcase filled with technical books and biographies of businessmen, an L-shaped desk with 3 monitors, a black leather sofa, and an entire wall covered with business diplomas and awards. "Camila, you know I have important meetings this week. The house needs to be impeccable. I can't have—" He paused, searching for the right words. "I can't have distractions." "I understand perfectly, Dr. Robert. Gabriel will be quiet, I promise. He can stay in the kitchen with me, drawing or playing quietly." "You won't even notice he's here," Camila pleaded, her hands nervously clasped in front of her. Robert studied her for a long moment. In 2 years of working for him, Camila had never asked for anything, never missed a day, never caused any trouble. She arrived early, worked quietly, left the house spotless, and left on time. He knew she was a single mother. He'd seen Gabriel once when she picked him up from school during her lunch break, but he'd never involved himself in her personal life. "Is your mother really hospitalized?" he asked, noticing the genuine sadness in her eyes. "Yes, sir. University hospital. Diabetes complications. She was watching Gabriel while I work here, but last night she had a crisis and—" Camila's voice trailed off. "I'm sorry, Dr. Robert. I know my personal problems aren't your responsibility. Don't apologize for having feelings, Camila." The response was gentler than he intended. Robert was surprised by his own words. Today's an exception, but only today. The relief on Camila's face was so evident that Robert felt the need to make it clear he wasn't being charitable. He was being practical. "Gabriel can stay in the kitchen with you, but I want complete silence during my 11 a.m. video conference. And he can't touch anything." "Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You won't regret it." They went back to where Gabriel was sitting on the marble floor, pushing his toy car in imaginary circles. The boy looked up as the adults approached. "Gabby, you can stay here today, but you have to be very well behaved. No shouting, no running, no touching things." "Understand," Camila said. "I understand, Mommy. Can I make my car go on the pretty floor?" Robert looked at the chipped yellow Beetle. "What kind of car is that?" "It's my favorite. Grandma Betty gave it to me for my birthday. She said Grandpa Anthony had one just like it when she was young," Gabriel explained, offering the toy to Robert to examine. Robert took the small car in his large, calloused hands shaped by decades of construction work. The metal was worn, the paint chipped, but the child's affection for the toy was evident. It was a very popular car in Brazil. "Your grandfather had good taste," he commented, returning the car. "Did you know my grandpa?" Gabriel asked, hopefully. "No, I didn't. But I know he was a hard-working man, like your mother and your grandmother." Camila was surprised by Robert's unexpected kindness. She was used to his cold efficiency, his direct instructions, his professional distance. Seeing him crouched down talking to her son was disconcerting. "Well, let's get started," Robert said, returning to his professional tone. "Camila, you can start with the living room. I have a video conference in the office at 11 a.m., so avoid that area until afternoon." "Perfectly, Dr. Robert." As Robert climbed the marble stairs toward the second floor, Camila gathered her cleaning supplies and guided Gabriel to the kitchen. It was a large, modern space, with black granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and a central island that served as a side table. One entire wall was composed of windows overlooking the back garden. "My goodness, what a beautiful kitchen," Camila murmured, still impressed even after 2 years of working there. Gabriel settled onto one of the high stools at the central island, taking out his sketchbook and colored pencils from his backpack. "Mommy, can I draw the house?" "You can, my love, but stay very quiet." As Camila began to organize her work for the day, Gabriel watched everything with curiosity. The professional espresso machine, the side-by-side refrigerator that looked like a closet, the built-in electric oven. For him, who was used to the two-burner stove and small refrigerator in their apartment, it was like being in a movie. "Mommy, why does the rich man live alone in such a big house?" Gabriel asked, beginning to draw. The question caught Camila off guard. She, too, had always been curious about Robert's personal life, but she had never allowed herself to speculate. "I don't know, my love. Everyone lives the way they think is best." "He seems sad," Gabriel observed with the keen perception of children. Camila stopped cleaning and looked at her son. "Why do you think that?" His eyes. "They're like yours when you think I'm not looking and you look at Daddy's picture." The observation hit Camila like an arrow. Gabriel was right. There was a deep melancholy in Robert's eyes that she recognized because she saw the same in the mirror every day. At 10:45 a.m., Robert came down to get water in the kitchen before his meeting. He found Gabriel concentrating on his drawing, his tongue sticking out in concentration, while Camila silently cleaned the windows. "Can I see what you're drawing?" Robert asked, approaching the central island. Gabriel proudly showed his work, a colorful drawing of the front of the mansion, with details surprisingly accurate for a 5-year-old. There were the white columns, the garden, even the electronic gate. "You draw very well. You have talent," Robert complimented, genuinely impressed. "My teacher at school always says that. She said I could be an." Gabriel frowned, trying to remember the word. "Architect," Robert suggested. "That's it. Architect. Like you. I'm not an architect. I'm a businessman. But I work with people who build houses and buildings. It must be cool to build houses for people to live in." Robert was silent for a moment, observing the boy's genuine enthusiasm. When was the last time someone had shown real interest in his work, without ulterior motives? It's a big responsibility. When we build a house, we're creating the place where a family will live, raise children, make memories. Like in your house. The innocent question made Robert hesitate. His mansion was impressive, but it hadn't housed happy memories in years. It was more a monument to his professional success than a home. "It's like this," he lied, looking around the kitchen he rarely used for anything more than heating up pre-made meals. Camila watched the interaction between the two in silence, surprised by the patience Robert showed Gabriel. It was a side of him she'd never seen, more human, less guarded. The sound of the phone ringing in the office interrupted the moment. "I need to take this." Remember, complete silence during the meeting. When Robert left the kitchen, Gabriel looked at his mother with his large, curious eyes. "Mommy, I think he liked my drawing." "I think so, my love. I think so." At 11 o'clock sharp, the mansion plunged into almost sepulchral silence. Robert had locked himself in his office for his video conference with Japanese investors interested in expanding his business to the Asian market. Camila took the opportunity to show Gabriel the rooms where they could move around without disturbing the boss. "Come on, Gabby. I'll show you where Mommy works," Camila whispered, taking her son's hand and guiding him through the house. They started with the living room, an imposing space with a 14-foot ceiling. A large beige leather sectional sofa occupied the center of the room, surrounded by designer armchairs that cost more than Camila's annual salary. The walls were decorated with abstract paintings in shades of blue and gray, and a gas fireplace dominated one of the side walls. "Mommy, why are there so many books, but it looks like nobody reads them?" Gabriel asked in a low voice, observing the floor-to-ceiling bookshelf, full of volumes that seemed untouched. Camila stopped polishing the coffee table and looked where Gabriel was pointing. He was right. The books were perfectly aligned, without the natural mess of someone who actually consults them. "Maybe Dr. Robert is too busy to read," she replied, but inwardly agreed with her son's perceptive observation. They continued their silent tour of the house. The social hall had a Steinway grand piano that, as Camila had discovered once, was never played. The dining room seated 12 people around a fine wood table, but she had never seen any signs that meals were served there. It was as if Robert only lived in the functional spaces: office, kitchen, and master suite. Why does he have such a big house if he only uses a little bit of it? Gabriel whispered as he admired the crystal chandelier in the dining room. Gabby, stop asking difficult questions, Camila joked. But the child had touched on something she herself always questioned. While working, Camila reflected on the 2 years she had been taking care of that mansion. Robert was punctual, polite, paid on time, and had never mistreated her. But he had also never shown genuine personal interest in her or any employee. He kept a respectful but cold distance. Until today, for the first time, she had seen him smile, a small, hesitant smile when Gabriel showed him the drawing. There was something in the way he looked at his son that piqued her curiosity. From the office came the muffled sounds of the video conference. Robert spoke fluent English, his deep, confident voice echoing through the closed door. Camila recognized some words: investment, construction, Brazil. It was Robert the businessman, the man who had built an empire and who was respected by everyone in the business world. Gabriel settled on the Persian rug in the living room with his toy cars, creating an imaginary city between the legs of the coffee table. Camila took the opportunity to intensify the cleaning, wanting everything to be perfect when Robert finished the meeting. "Mommy," Gabriel whispered after a few minutes, "does the rich man look like Daddy?" The question made Camila choke. "What do you mean, my love?" "I don't know. They're both tall and have dark hair. But Daddy smiled more, right?" Camila felt her chest tighten. Gabriel remembered his father less and less, but he still kept some memories from his early years. Rodrigo really did smile more. He was charming, funny, knew how to win people over. The problem was that he was also irresponsible, a liar, and a coward. "Dr. Robert is very different from your father, Gabby. He's a serious person who keeps his promises. Do you like him?" The question caught Camila completely off guard. Like, she respected Robert as a boss, admired his dedication to work, his punctuality, his discretion. But she had never thought of him in those terms. "He's my boss, my love. I work for him. But you can like the people you work with, right? You like Aunt Sandra from the other house." Gabriel was referring to the employer of the second house, where Camila cleaned on Fridays. Sandra was a widowed woman, 60 years old, who always offered coffee and chatted about life while Camila worked. "Aunt Sandra is different, Gabby." "Different how?" Before Camila could answer, they heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Robert appeared at the entrance of the living room, looking pleased with the outcome of the meeting. He had taken off his jacket and loosened his tie, and his hair was slightly disheveled. "Did the meeting go well?" Camila asked, quickly getting up and smoothing her uniform. "Better than expected. They approved the expansion to 3 new countries," Robert replied, watching Gabriel play on the floor. "Did he behave well?" "Perfectly. I didn't even notice he was here." Robert approached where Gabriel was playing. The boy had created an elaborate city with his 3 toy cars, using the legs of the table as buildings and imagining streets in the pattern of the rug. "What city is this?" Robert asked, crouching down. "It's Chicago, like where we live. But in my city, everyone has a big house and nobody is sad," Gabriel explained, moving the yellow beetle down an imaginary street. "And how do you know that nobody is sad in your city?" "Because I make the rules. And the first rule is that everyone has to have a family that loves them." Robert was silent, absorbing the child's words. Camila watched his expression subtly shift. There was something vulnerable there, as if Gabriel had touched an old wound. "That's a good rule," Robert finally said. "Want to play with me? You can be the mayor of the city, and I can be the car driver." Robert looked at Camila, as if asking for permission. She nodded with an encouraging smile, curious to see how he would react. "I haven't played in a long time. I don't know if I still know how." "It's easy. You just have to imagine. Look, this is the police car." Gabriel picked up a red toy car, and it protects everyone in the city. "This is the fire truck." He picked up a yellow one. "And this is the doctor's car that takes care of sick people." Robert sat on the floor next to Gabriel, his long legs bending awkwardly. Camila hid a smile. Seeing that man in a suit on the living room floor playing with toy cars was a surreal scene. "And where do people work in your city?" Robert asked, joining the game. "Everyone works together. The dads build houses, the moms take care of the kids, and everyone helps each other. Like in a big family." "Like a family," Robert repeated thoughtfully. Camila continued her work, but paid attention to the conversation. There was something touching about seeing Gabriel include Robert in his imaginary world, and even more touching to see Robert allow himself to be included. "Dr. Robert, can I ask you a question?" Gabriel said, stopping playing and looking seriously at the adult. "You can. Why do you live alone? Aren't you scared at night?" Robert hesitated. It was a simple question, but it cut deep. Sometimes it's easier to live alone. There are no arguments, no disappointments. But there are no hugs either, Gabriel observed with the brutal wisdom of children. Camila stopped cleaning and looked at Robert. The expression on his face was that of someone who had just received an unexpected blow. Gabriel had, unintentionally, touched the core of the loneliness he carried. "Gabriel, don't bother Dr. Robert with personal questions," Camila gently reprimanded. "It's okay," Robert said, his voice slightly hoarse. "He's right. There are no hugs." A heavy silence hung over the trio. Gabriel, realizing he had said something important, approached Robert and, with the spontaneity of children, hugged him. "Now there are," he said simply. Robert remained motionless for a moment, surprised by the gesture. Slowly, his arms closed around the small boy. Camila felt tears welling up in her eyes as she witnessed that moment of genuine vulnerability. When Gabriel pulled away, Robert discreetly wiped his eyes behind his glasses. "Thank you," he said, his voice lower than usual. "You're welcome. Mommy always says hugs are free and everyone needs them." Robert looked at Camila, who blushed under his intense gaze. "Your mother is a wise woman. She's the best mom in the world. She works very hard to give me everything I need." "Gabriel," Camila whispered, embarrassed. "It's true, Mom. You wake up early, work hard, and still make brigadeiros at night to sell. And when I'm sick, you stay up with me all night." Robert absorbed every word, building a more complete picture of Camila's life. He knew she was a single working mother, but he had never grasped the extent of her efforts. "Brigadeiros?" he asked. "Oh, it's just extra money," Camila said, trying to downplay it. "I make them to sell at Gabriel's school, nothing special. Mom makes the best brigadeiros in the world. Even Grandma Betty says she could have a shop." "A shop?" Robert murmured, thoughtfully. His phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was another important client. Robert hesitated before answering, looking at Gabriel still sitting on the floor with his toy cars. "I need to answer. But Gabriel, thank you for the hug. It's been a while since I've had one. Whenever you want another one, just ask. I have plenty to spare." Robert smiled, a genuine smile this time, before answering the phone and returning to his office. Camila watched Gabriel organize his toy cars, her heart heavy with a mix of pride and concern. Her son had accomplished in one morning what she hadn't been able to do in 2 years, make Robert genuinely smile. But there was also something dangerous about that closeness. Gabriel was becoming fond of his mother's boss, and she knew how quickly children formed bonds. What if he started seeing Robert as a father figure? What if Robert got tired of the situation and decided to let her go? "Gabby, come help Mommy put things away. It's time for our lunch. Can I draw a little longer? I want to make a drawing for Dr. Robert." Camila looked at her son, seeing the excitement in his eyes, and couldn't bring herself to refuse. After all, what could be wrong with a drawing? The aroma of instant ramen filled Robert's sophisticated kitchen, creating an almost comical contrast between the luxurious setting and the simple meal Camila was preparing for her and Gabriel. It was 12:30 p.m., and Robert was still on endless calls in his office. Camila had set aside a corner of the counter for their lunch, careful not to use anything beyond the necessary. "Mommy, can I season it with ketchup?" Gabriel asked, swinging his little legs on the high stool while waiting for the noodles to cool. "You can, my love, but just a little," Camila replied, breaking a banana to go with the meal. It was what she had managed to bring in her bag, simple but nutritious within her means. Gabriel picked up his pencil and continued working on his second drawing of the day, this time depicting the family he imagined for Robert. On the paper, there was a tall man next to a woman and a child, all smiling in front of a mansion. "Who are those people in your drawing?" Camila asked, curious. "It's the family Dr. Robert should have. Look, he's smiling for real here," Gabriel explained, carefully painting the man's face in the drawing, paying special attention to his eyes. Camila felt a pang in her chest. Her son's innocence both touched and worried her. Gabriel was creating a fantasy around Robert, and she knew how that could end badly. Gabby, Dr. Robert is a good person, but he's our boss. We shouldn't get too involved in his life. Why not? He liked talking to me. Because rich people like him have a very different life than ours. We're here to work. Gabriel stopped drawing and looked seriously at his mother. But everyone needs friends, right, Mommy? Even rich people. Before Camila could answer, they heard footsteps approaching the kitchen. Robert appeared in the doorway, still holding his phone, finishing a call in English. When he hung up, he stood observing the scene. Mother and son having lunch, instant ramen, in his gourmet kitchen equipped with appliances that cost a fortune. Sorry for the mess, Dr. Robert. We'll clean it up, Camila said quickly, getting up. No need to apologize. You need to eat. Robert opened the huge refrigerator and stared at the almost empty shelves. Only a few drinks, expiring yogurts, and leftover delivery food. Camila, can I ask you something? Of course, sir. Do you always have instant ramen for lunch? Camila blushed deeply. No, sir. It's just that today was rushed with the rain and normally we eat at home. Robert nodded, but she noticed he kept looking at Gabriel's simple bowl with a thoughtful expression. Dr. Robert. Gabriel interrupted, jumping off the stool with the drawing in his hand. I made this for you. Robert took the paper and studied the drawing carefully. The happy family Gabriel had created for him was colored with great affection, green grass, blue sky, yellow sun, and careful shades of brown and black for the people. It's very beautiful, Gabriel. Who are these people? It's your family. I invented it so you wouldn't be alone. Look, there's even a dog. Gabriel pointed to a brown blob with 4 legs next to the human figures. Robert was silent for a long moment, holding the drawing. Camila watched his expression subtly change. There was pain there, but also something that seemed to be hope. Thank you. I'll keep it very carefully. You can put it on the fridge. Mommy always puts my drawings on our fridge. Robert looked at his immaculate stainless steel refrigerator, completely devoid of any personal touch. That's a good idea. To Camila's surprise, Robert took a magnet from a drawer and stuck the drawing on the refrigerator door. The colorful paper looked strange in that minimalist environment, but somehow, it also made it more welcoming. Now your house is happier, Gabriel declared, satisfied with the result. It is, Robert agreed, and Camila realized he was serious. Camila's phone rang at that moment. It was from the hospital. She answered quickly, stepping a few steps away. Hello? How is my mother? Her voice became tense. What do you mean she's worse? But yesterday the doctor said. Yes, I understand. I'll try to go there this afternoon. When she hung up, she was visibly shaken. Gabriel immediately noticed the change in his mother's mood. Is Grandma Betty okay? He asked, worried. She had a relapse, my love. She had to go to the ICU. Robert, who had witnessed the conversation, approached. Is it serious? The doctors don't know yet. She was improving, but this morning her blood sugar spiked and Camila stopped, realizing she was sharing personal problems with her boss. Sorry, Dr. Robert. I didn't want to bother you with this. Do you need to go to the hospital? I'd like to go, but I can't leave work halfway. And I also don't have anyone to leave Gabriel with. Robert thought for a moment. What time do you normally finish here? At 5 p.m., sir. And the hospital allows evening visits? Until 8 p.m. Then finish your work here and go to the hospital. As for Gabriel, he looked at the boy, who was watching them worriedly. If you want, he can stay here with me while you visit your mother. Camila's eyes widened. Dr. Robert, I couldn't accept that. It's too much trouble. It's not trouble if I'm offering. But you don't know how to take care of children. I don't, indeed, Robert admitted. But Gabriel will teach me. Won't you, Gabriel? I can teach you. It's easy to take care of me. I'm well behaved, said Gabriel, excited about the possibility. Camila was torn between gratitude and embarrassment. It was an offer that was too generous, exceeding all the limits of their professional relationship. Dr. Robert, this is very kind, but… Camila, Robert interrupted her, his voice softer than usual. Your mother is sick. You need to see her. It's that simple. But why would you do this for us? The question caught Robert off guard. Why was he doing this? Why did he care? He looked at Gabriel, who was watching him with complete confidence, and then at Camila, who was struggling between pride and need. Because sometimes we need to do the right thing, even when we don't know exactly why. Camila felt tears welling up in her eyes. For 2 years, she had raised Gabriel alone, solving all the problems, carrying all the responsibilities. Robert's genuine offer of help deeply touched her. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You just need to accept. Gabriel, noticing his mother's emotion, approached and took her hand. Mommy, Dr. Robert is nice. I'll stay with him. Robert crouched down to Gabriel's height. Are you sure? You won't be scared to stay here without your mother? I won't. Will you teach me things about building houses? I can try. Do you like building things? I do. At home, I make castles with the sofa cushions. Robert smiled. Here we have better materials than cushions. Camila watched the interaction between the two and felt something move in her chest. Robert was being genuinely kind, not condescending or charitable. There was something natural in the way he talked to Gabriel, as if he were rediscovering a part of himself. Okay, she said finally. But Gabriel, you have to promise you'll behave and do everything Dr. Robert will take care of him. I promise, Mommy. And Dr. Robert, if he gives you any trouble, call me and I'll be right back. He won't be any trouble. We'll manage, won't we, Gabriel? Yes, we will. Can I show him how I organize my cars? You can. And I can show you my collection of real cars in the garage. Gabriel's eyes lit up. Real cars. 3 real cars. Camila felt a pang of worry. Gabriel was getting a little too mesmerized by this world. But looking at Robert, she saw only sincerity. He wasn't trying to impress. He was just being kind. So it's settled then, she said. I'll finish my work here, and then I'll go to the hospital. Gabriel will stay with you until I get back. Perfect. Camila, I hope your mother is all right. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. As Camila returned to work, Robert remained in the kitchen with Gabriel, who had resumed his drawing. The businessman watched the child with growing curiosity. When was the last time he had spent time with a child? When was the last time someone had shown genuine interest in his life, without wanting something in return? Dr. Robert, Gabriel said without looking up from his paper. Are you happy? The question, asked with the naturalness of children, hit Robert like a punch to the stomach. Happy. He was successful, rich, respected. But happy? That's a difficult question, Gabriel. Why? I know when I'm happy. It's when Mommy smiles, when Grandma Betty makes cake, when I can play at the playground. And when are you sad? When Mommy cries in secret. She thinks I don't see, but I do. Robert felt his chest tighten. Does your mother cry a lot? Sometimes. Mostly when those school papers about money arrive, or when she thinks I'm asleep and she's looking at the bills on the kitchen table. Gabriel's innocence revealed a harsh reality that Robert had never considered closely. Camila carried an immense weight, raising a child alone, working multiple jobs, caring for a sick mother. Gabriel, do you think your mother would like to have a different life? What do you mean? I don't know. With less worry, more time to play with you. Gabriel thought seriously about the question. I think so. But she always says we have to be grateful for what we have and work for what we want. Your mother is very wise. She is. She knows almost everything. Except how to fix the shower that broke last week. Gabriel laughed. Robert smiled too, but inside he was processing information. An image was forming in his mind, Camila's real life, full of practical challenges that he had never faced. Dr. Robert? Yes. When my mother comes back from the hospital, will you still be our friend? The question was simple, but carried immense weight. Robert looked at the child who, in a few hours, had managed to see through all his defenses and touch his deepest loneliness. I would very much like that, Gabriel. Then it's just wanting. Friendship is easy. It's just liking the person and treating them well. Robert fell silent, absorbing Gabriel's simple wisdom. Perhaps happiness was like that too, simpler than he had made it. At 5:30 p.m., Camila finished organizing her cleaning supplies with an efficiency that impressed even Robert. The house was impeccable, every surface gleaming, every object in its place. She had worked even harder than usual, as if she wanted to somehow compensate for the unexpected kindness she was receiving. Gabriel, come here so Mommy can say goodbye, she called, checking for the third time if she had everything in her bag. Gabriel ran from the living room, where he had spent the entire afternoon drawing while Robert worked on his laptop beside him. In the last moments, a strangely natural routine had been established between them. The businessman answered emails while commenting on the boy's drawings, who in turn asked questions about everything he saw on the computer screen. "Mommy, Dr. Robert showed me some pictures of his company. He helped build huge buildings," Gabriel said, excited. Camilla looked at Robert, surprised. "Did you show him pictures of your work?" He was curious about what was on the screen. "I ended up showing him some projects." Robert closed the laptop and stood up. Gabriel has a genuine interest in construction. He asked very intelligent questions. "He's always been curious," Camilla said proudly. "Sometimes too much. Curiosity is a valuable quality. It should be cultivated." Camilla nodded, but there was something in Robert's tone that intrigued her. It was as if he were speaking from his own experience, perhaps remembering a curiosity he had lost along the way. "Well, Gabriel, you're going to stay here with Dr. Robert for a few hours. Remember the rules: behavior, politeness, and obedience." "I remember, Mommy. And I'll take good care of Dr. Robert too." Robert smiled at the role reversal. "I think I'll need some care myself. I have no experience with 5-year-old babysitters." "Babysitter? I'm not a babysitter. I'm a friend," protested Gabriel, laughing. "You're right. Friends take care of each other." Camilla watched the interaction with a mixture of gratitude and growing apprehension. Robert seemed genuinely at ease with Gabriel, but she knew her son. He had a gift for winning people over quickly, and then suffered when they left. "Dr. Robert, are you sure it won't be a bother? I could try to take Gabriel with me to the hospital." "Camilla," Robert interrupted her softly, "go easy. We'll be fine. You need to concentrate on your mother." She nodded, fighting back emotion. "Anything, call me. My number is on the fridge, along with Gabriel's drawings." "I know." After Camilla left, the mansion fell strangely silent. Robert looked at Gabriel, who was watching him expectantly, and realized he had no idea how to entertain a child for hours. "So, what would you like to do? Can I see your real house?" "Mommy only let me see some parts." Robert hesitated. There were parts of the house that he himself avoided, rooms that were once planned for a family that never came, spaces that held painful memories. "Sure, let's do a full tour." They started on the second floor. Robert showed him his bedroom, a master suite with a jacuzzi tub, a walk-in closet bigger than Camilla's apartment, and a balcony overlooking the garden. Gabriel was impressed by the size of the bed. "Why do you need such a big bed if you sleep alone?" "Good question. I guess I never thought about it." They continued down the hall. Robert stopped in front of a closed door and hesitated. "What's in there?" Gabriel asked. It was supposed to be a child's room. Robert opened the door slowly. The room was impeccably clean but empty. It had been decorated years ago with whimsical wallpaper and light wood built-in furniture, but no child had ever slept there. Gabriel entered the room and slowly turned, absorbing the space. Was it going to be for your son? That was the plan. A long time ago. What happened? Robert leaned against the doorframe, looking at the room that represented so many broken dreams. Sometimes plans don't work out the way we expect. Gabriel nodded with the seriousness of someone who understood disappointments. Like when Dad left. Mommy said he had other plans. The unexpected comparison made Robert look more closely at Gabriel. Both had been abandoned in different ways. Gabriel by his father, Robert by his ex-wife who decided she didn't want children after 3 years of marriage. It's similar, yes. But do you know what Mommy taught me? She said that when a plan doesn't work out, we can make a new plan. And what would the new plan be for this room? Gabriel thought for a moment, then smiled. It could be a toy room, or a place to draw, or, his eyes lit up, a room for when kids visit. Robert smiled, touched by Gabriel's ability to see possibilities where he only saw disappointments. Those are good ideas. They went downstairs to see the garage, where Robert kept his 3 cars, a black BMW, a gray Audi, and, to Gabriel's surprise, a red Jeep. "Wow, they're beautiful." Gabriel ran around the cars, admiring every detail. "Why do you have 3? "Honestly, I don't know. I guess I thought I needed them. But you can only drive one at a time." "Exactly. You're right." Gabriel stopped in front of the Jeep. "This one looks more fun than the others." "Why?" "Because it's colorful. And it looks like it can go to different places, not just on the street." Robert looked at the Jeep he had bought on impulse 2 years ago, and then rarely used. Gabriel was right. It was the most fun of the 3, but Robert had forgotten the concept of fun a long time ago. "Want to see the inside?" Gabriel's eyes lit up. Robert opened the doors and let the boy explore the interior, explaining what each button and lever was for. Gabriel was especially fascinated by the sunroof. It must be amazing to drive with the sky open, Gabriel said, looking up. I've never tried it. I always keep it closed. Why? Because of habit, I guess. Robert realized he was giving a lot of answers about habit and never thought about it. When had he stopped questioning his own choices? When had he become so automatic? They went back inside the house, and Robert showed Gabriel his office. The boy was impressed by the multiple monitors, the awards on the walls, and the architectural projects scattered across the desk. You're very smart, Gabriel said, admiring a technical drawing. Why do you think that? Because you can understand these complicated drawings. To me, they all look the same. Robert picked up a simpler project and sat next to Gabriel. Want me to teach you how to read a basic architectural plan? For an hour, Robert explained the basic elements of a floor plan. Gabriel was surprisingly attentive, asking insightful questions and making intelligent connections. Robert discovered that teaching was enjoyable. He had forgotten how rewarding it was to see someone learn something new. Dr. Robert, Gabriel said when they finished, do you like your job? Sure, it's my life. But do you really like it? Or do you just do it because you're good at it? The question caught Robert completely off guard. He was good at his job. He was successful. He had recognition. But did he like it? When was the last time he had felt real pleasure in designing, creating, building? It's an interesting question. Mommy always says that we have to like what we do. Otherwise, it just becomes an obligation. And what do you like to do? Draw, play, talk to nice people like you and Mommy. And I also like to help. When Grandma Betty cooks, when Mommy sells brigadeiros. Robert realized that Gabriel, at 5 years old, had more clarity about what made him happy than he did himself. Robert's phone rang. It was Camila. Hello, Dr. Robert. How's Gabriel? He's great. We took a tour of the house, and he taught me some important things. He taught you things. Camila laughed on the other end of the line. Many things. How is your mother? Better, thank God. The doctors managed to stabilize her blood sugar. She'll be hospitalized for a few more days, but she's out of danger. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Dr. Robert, thank you so much. Really, you can't imagine what this means to me. Robert looked at Gabriel, who was drawing quietly at the office desk, and realized he knew exactly what it meant. It meant family, care, not being alone in difficult times. Camila, you don't need to rush. Gabriel is well taken care of here. But it's almost 8 p.m. So what? We're having fun. Come when you feel ready. After he hung up, Robert watched Gabriel. The boy had managed, in one day, to show him parts of his own house that he had forgotten, to make him question choices he had made automatically, and most importantly, to remind him what it was like to have genuine companionship. Gabriel, he said, thank you. For what? For teaching me that sometimes you need to make new plans. Gabriel smiled. You're welcome. We'll do it together, okay? You, me, and Mommy. Robert felt something move in his chest. The idea of together had been painful for so long that he'd forgotten it could be comforting. Together, he repeated, savoring the word as if it were new. It was almost 9 p.m. when Camila finally returned from the hospital. She found the mansion lit differently. There was light in the living room, the kitchen, the study. The house seemed alive. For the first time in 2 years working there, she felt that the place truly felt like a home. Robert opened the door before she even rang the doorbell, as if he'd been waiting near the entrance. His hair was slightly tousled, his tie was gone completely, and there was something different in his expression, a lightness she'd never seen before. How's your mother? Was the first thing he asked. Better, thank God. Stable. Thank you for asking. Camila entered and immediately scanned for Gabriel. Where's my son? Did he behave? He's in the living room, finishing a very important project. And yes, he behaved perfectly. In fact, I think I learned more from him than he did from me. Camila followed Robert to the living room and was met with a scene that left her speechless. Gabriel was sitting on the floor, surrounded by sheets of paper, colored pencils, and architectural drawings. He was drawing intently, his tongue sticking out as he always did when focused. Gabby, what are you doing? Gabriel looked up, radiant. Mommy, Dr. Robert taught me how to draw house plans. Look, I'm making a house for Grandma Betty to move into after she leaves the hospital. Camila approached and saw that Gabriel had actually tried to draw a simple floor plan. It was clearly a child's drawing, but it had basic structural elements. Bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, living room. It's very beautiful, my love. But I think you gave Dr. Robert a lot of work. Actually, Robert interrupted, sitting down on the floor next to Gabriel. It was a lot of fun. Gabriel has an impressive spatial perception for his age. Camila watched Robert sitting on the floor of his own luxurious living room, his dress shirt sleeves rolled up and socks showing where his pants had ridden up. It was such an incongruous image that she almost laughed. Dr. Robert, you didn't have to. She began, but he raised his hand. Camila, may I ask you something? Why do you always apologize for everything? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? Since you arrived here today, you've already apologized for being late, for bringing Gabriel, for the mess at lunch, for Gabriel being troublesome, for him asking questions. What? Camila fell silent, processing the observation. Robert was right. She did apologize for everything, as if her very existence were an inconvenience. I think it's habit. People like me learn to apologize first, to avoid problems. People like you, people who need the job, people who can't afford to be a bother. Robert studied her for a long moment. Do you think Gabriel was a bother today? No, sir. And do you think I did this out of obligation? Camila hesitated, looking at Robert in that moment. Relaxed, smiling, clearly at ease, it was hard to believe he was doing anything out of obligation. I don't know, sir. Camila, I spent the whole day with Gabriel because I wanted to. Because it was enjoyable. It's been years since I've had so much fun. Gabriel looked from one to the other, sensing the tension in the conversation. Mommy, Dr. Robert is really nice. He showed me the whole house and said I can come back to play. Gabriel, Camila began, worried about the expectations her son was creating. Let me show you something, said Robert, standing up. Come with me. He led them to the kitchen, where the refrigerator was now decorated not only with the morning's drawing, but with all the drawings Gabriel had made during the afternoon. Childish floor plans, colorful cars, a happy family, and in the center, a new drawing. Robert, Gabriel, and Camila smiling together. When did he draw this? Camila asked, gently touching the paper. About 2 hours ago. He said it was a portrait of the family you are to him. Camila felt tears welling up in her eyes. Gabriel, you shouldn't bother Dr. Robert with. Camila, stop. Robert interrupted her, but his voice was gentle. Stop diminishing yourself. Stop thinking you're a bother. Gabriel wasn't a bother. He brightened my home. You brightened my home. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Gabriel watched them, sensing that something important was happening between the adults. Dr. Robert, Camila finally said, I don't understand why you're being so kind to us. Want to know the truth? Robert leaned against the counter, choosing his words carefully. Today was the first day in years that I haven't felt alone in this house. Gabriel asked me questions that no one has ever asked. He made me rethink things I'd accepted without questioning. And you? He looked directly at her. You raised an incredible human being practically on your own. That deserves far more than kindness. It deserves admiration. Camila blushed deeply. No one had ever spoken about her motherhood in those terms. She was used to hearing that she was poor, that she was struggling, that she needed help. Never that she deserved admiration. I just do what any mother would do. No, Camila, you do much more than that. Gabriel told me about the brigadeiros you make in the early morning, about how you take care of your mother, about how you work in 3 different places. That's not just survival, it's exceptional dedication. Gabriel, who had been listening attentively, approached his mother and took her hand. It's true, Mommy. You're the best mom in the world. Camila knelt down to be at her son's height, finally letting the tears fall. Thank you, my love. Robert watched the scene, feeling a pang in his chest. When was the last time someone had shown genuine gratitude for his presence? When was the last time he himself had felt part of something bigger than his business? Gabriel, he said, are you hungry? I think it's past dinner time. It is. But Mommy brought snacks in her bag. How about we have dinner together? I can order takeout, or... He hesitated. Camila, do you know how to cook? Of course I do. But Dr. Robert, I can't use your kitchen too. Please, let me rephrase. Would you and Gabriel like to have dinner here with me? And Camila, would you do me the favor of cooking something? It's been years since I've had real home-cooked food. Camila looked around the sophisticated kitchen, then at Gabriel, who was clearly excited about the idea, and finally at Robert, who watched her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher, but which seemed to be hope. I can make something simple. But do you have ingredients? We'll have to see. I confess my fridge isn't the most stocked. They did an inventory together. There were eggs, milk, a little cheese, cherry tomatoes that were almost past their prime, and in the freezer, a loaf of bread. Camila thought for a moment. I can make a fancy omelet and some special toast. Nothing too fancy. It'll be perfect. While Camila cooked, Robert and Gabriel continued working on the architectural drawings at the counter. It was a domestic scene that none of the three had experienced in their previous family settings. Robert had never had a real family. Camila had never had a partner who truly participated in raising her child. Dr. Robert, Gabriel said as he colored another floor plan. You could have dinner with us always. Gabriel. Camila gently chided him from the stove. No, let him talk, said Robert. Why do you think that, Gabriel? Because you're happier when we're here. And Mommy is more relaxed too. And I like talking to you. Robert looked at Camila, who had stopped stirring the omelet to listen to the conversation. Their eyes met for a moment, and he saw in them the same loneliness he carried. What if you had dinner here sometimes? Officially, what do you mean? Camila asked. Well, Gabriel needs a place to stay when you visit your mother at the hospital, right? And I would enjoy the company. It could be beneficial for everyone. Camila turned off the burner and turned completely to him. Dr. Robert, that wouldn't be appropriate. I work for you, and you would continue working. But maybe we could also be other things besides employer and employee. What other things? Robert looked at Gabriel, who was watching them with interest, then back at Camila. Friends. The word hung in the air for a moment. Friends. It was a possibility neither of them had considered, but which suddenly seemed not only possible, but desirable. Friends. Camila repeated, tasting the word. Friends. Gabriel exclaimed, jumping off the stool. I said we could be friends. Robert laughed. A genuine, light laugh that Camila had never heard from him. You were right, Gabriel. As always. As they ate omelets and toast at the kitchen counter, Robert had insisted on eating there instead of the formal dining room. A new dynamic settled between them. They talked about work, about school, about plans for the future. Robert told stories about construction. Gabriel shared his dreams of being an architect like his friend Robert, and Camila talked about her old desire to study business administration. Why don't you go back to school? Robert asked. Time, money, responsibilities. Camila shrugged. Life happened. But life is still happening. It's not too late for new plans. Gabriel nodded vigorously. That's what I told him today, Mommy. When a plan doesn't work, we make a new one. Robert and Camila exchanged glances, both realizing that Gabriel had unknowingly become the architect of a new possibility for their lives. When they finally said goodbye, it was past 10 p.m. Gabriel had fallen asleep in Robert's lap while they watched cartoons on TV, and Camila had to carry him to the gate. Camila, Robert said before they left, thank you for everything. Thank you, Dr. Robert. Today was special. For me too. And Camila, next time you come to work, bring Gabriel again. Officially. Camila smiled. A genuine smile, without embarrassment. Okay, friends do that for each other, right? They do. As Robert watched them leave down the quiet street, he realized that for the first time in years, he didn't feel dread at the thought of the next day. He had something to look forward to, the next time he would see his new friends. 3 weeks had passed since that first rainy day, and a completely new routine had been established. Camila now brought Gabriel every day to work at the mansion, and Robert had reorganized his schedule to have more flexibility in the afternoons. What had begun as an emergency solution was transforming into something much more significant for everyone involved. On the morning of a sunny Thursday, Camila arrived at the mansion with Gabriel and a worried expression that Robert immediately noticed. The boy, normally lively, was quiet and clung to his mother's hand more tightly than usual. Good morning, Robert greeted, opening the gate. Are you both all right? Good morning, Dr. Robert, Camila replied, forcing a smile. Everything is fine. But Robert had already learned to read Camila's expressions. Something was wrong. Gabriel, what's with that face? Where's my little architect? He asked, crouching down to be at the boy's level. Gabriel hugged him, but without the usual enthusiasm. Hi, Dr. Robert. I'm a little sad today. Why? Gabriel looked at his mother, as if asking permission to speak. Camila sighed and nodded. Grandma Betty is going to have a big surgery. And the school sent a paper saying that I might have to repeat the year if I keep missing so much school. Robert felt his stomach clench. He had become so accustomed to Gabriel's daily presence that he hadn't considered the consequences his decision to bring him every day might have. Camila, why didn't you tell me about the surgery? Because it's not your problem, Dr. Robert. We've taken advantage of your kindness too much. Don't call it kindness if it makes me happy, Robert said, guiding them inside. Come, let's talk properly about this. In the kitchen, while Camila made coffee, Robert sat with Gabriel on the counter. The boy seemed smaller than usual, as if the weight of adult worries had shrunk him. Gabriel, tell me about school. What exactly is happening? Teacher Ms. Marina said I'm missing too many days and that even though I'm smart, I need to be in class to learn things with the class. She said if I miss more, I'll have to repeat the grade next year. Robert looked at Camila, who was facing away stirring the coffee, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. And about your grandmother? The doctors at the hospital said she needs heart surgery. It's going to be a difficult surgery, and afterward, she'll have to rest for a while and won't be able to take care of anyone. The simplicity with which Gabriel explained the complex situation deeply touched Robert. This child was dealing with issues no child should face. Camila joined them at the counter, placing the coffee in front of Robert. Her hands trembled slightly. Dr. Robert, I know we made agreements, but I'll have to rearrange things. Gabriel needs to go back to school every day, and I'll need more time to care for my mother after the surgery. Maybe it's best if I look for another job, something closer to home, with more flexible hours. Another job? Robert felt a chill run down his spine. Are you talking about stopping working here? It's not that I want to, it's that I need to. I can't jeopardize Gabriel's education or abandon my mother. Robert was silent for a long moment, processing the information. The idea of returning to his solitary routine, of no longer having Gabriel asking about his projects, of no longer having Camila bringing life to that house, was unbearable. What if there was another solution? What kind of solution? Robert took a deep breath. What he was about to propose went completely beyond the limits of a traditional professional relationship, but in recent weeks he had discovered that some of life's best things happened outside traditional boundaries. What if I hired a private tutor for Gabriel? He could study here, have regular classes, and wouldn't lose the school year. Camila's eyes widened. Dr. Robert, that would be very expensive. I couldn't afford it. I would pay. No, absolutely not. We've already abused your generosity too much. Camila, listen. Robert stood up and began pacing the kitchen, organizing his thoughts. In recent weeks, you've transformed this house. Gabriel has taught me things about myself that I had forgotten. You've brought a warmth that has been missing here for years. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a fair exchange. What kind of exchange? You continue working here, taking care of the house. Gabriel studies here with a private tutor I hire. In return, you continue bringing life to this house, and I have the peace of mind of knowing that I'm helping people who have become important to me. Gabriel had been listening silently, but now his eyes lit up. I could have classes here, in this beautiful house. You could, yes. There's a study upstairs that would be perfect for a classroom. Camila shook her head. Dr. Robert, this is too much. I can't accept. Why not? Because it's not normal. Bosses don't do this for employees. Maybe the problem is that we're only thinking as boss and employee. Robert stopped pacing and looked directly at her. Camila, we're friends. Friends help each other. But it's a lot of money. For me, it isn't. And do you know what the real cost would be for me? You leaving. Going back to living in this empty house. Without laughter, without curious questions, without someone who genuinely cares if I had a good day. Camila felt tears welling up in her eyes. Dr. Robert. Robert. Just Robert. I think we've moved past excessive formalities. Gabriel hopped off the counter and hugged Robert. I want to stay here with you. You're my best adult friend. Robert returned the hug, feeling something melt in his chest. You're my best friend of any age. Camila, he continued, still hugging Gabriel. Let me tell you something about myself. I built an empire. I have more money than I could spend in several lifetimes. I can buy anything I want. But until you came here, I didn't know what it truly meant to be rich. Now I do. Being rich is having people who genuinely care about you. It's having reasons to smile every day. It's having a house that feels like a home. Camila wiped away her tears with the back of her hand. But what if you get tired of us? What if you decide you want your privacy back? What if I guarantee that won't happen? How? Robert hesitated, then went to a drawer and took out some papers. Yesterday, I talked to my lawyer. I prepared a formal contract. You would be promoted to house manager with a salary 3 times your current one, health insurance for you and Gabriel, and the right to use the house space for Gabriel's education. Everything legal, everything documented. Camila took the papers with trembling hands and read quickly. It was real. It was serious. Robert had thought of everything. Why? She asked, looking at him. Why are you doing all this? Robert sat beside her on the counter. Do you want the honest answer? Of course. Because for the first time in years, I feel like I have a family. Not the family I planned to have, not the family I thought I wanted, but the family that fate brought me. And families take care of each other. Gabriel looked from one to the other. So we're going to be a real family? If your mother accepts, yes. Camila looked at the contract, then at Gabriel, then at Roberto. She saw sincerity in his eyes, genuine care, and something else she didn't dare name yet. What about my mother's surgery? She can recover here, if she wants. We have extra rooms, and it would be another reason to have a nurse visit regularly, something that would benefit everyone. You thought of everything. I thought about what would make sense for a family. Camila closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the conversation she'd had with her mother at the hospital. Elizabeth had told her, "Daughter, sometimes God sends angels disguised as opportunities. Don't let pride blind you to blessings." Okay, she finally said. I accept, but on one condition. What's that? I want to truly contribute. I don't want to be just a beneficiary. I want to work hard. I want to deserve this opportunity. Robert smiled. Camila, you already deserve it. But I accept your condition. Gabriel shouted with joy and hugged both adults at the same time. Now we're an official family. Robert laughed, joining the hug. Official family. But even amidst the joy, Robert knew they would face challenges ahead. Society wouldn't easily understand their dynamic. There would be comments, judgments, perhaps complications he hadn't yet foreseen. Later that morning, while Camila worked and Gabriel drew, Robert received a call that would change the dynamic of their lives once again. Robert? It's Marcia. Marcia was his ex-wife, the woman who had left his life 3 years ago saying she didn't want children, that she preferred to focus on her international consulting career. Marcia, this is a surprise. I'm coming back to the United States. Permanently. And Robert, I'd like us to talk. About us. About starting over. Robert looked out the office window and saw Gabriel in the garden, showing flowers to Camila. His new family. His real family. Marcia, I think this conversation is about 3 years overdue. I know I hurt you, Robert. But I've grown. I've changed. I'm ready to be the wife you've always wanted. Robert closed his eyes. 3 years ago, that call would have been everything he wanted to hear. Now, it only confirmed how much his life had changed. Marcia, I've changed too. And I discovered that what I always wanted wasn't an ideal wife. It was a real family. And I already have that. The silence on the other end of the line was long. Is there someone else? Robert looked again at Camila and Gabriel in the garden. I have a family. After he hung up, Robert realized that for the first time in his adult life, he had chosen real happiness over the appearance of success. And that choice was about to be tested in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The news spread through the upscale Lincoln Park neighborhood like wildfire. Robert Sterling, the successful and coveted bachelor businessman, was living with his housekeeper and her son. Within days, malicious comments began circulating in the exclusive clubs, expensive beauty salons, and social circles of Chicago's elite. It was Mrs. Eleanor Cavendish, Robert's neighbor and wife of a retired judge, who first raised the concern during ladies' tea at the exclusive country club. A 62-year-old woman with impeccable hair and a razor-sharp tongue, she had noticed the unusual activity in the house next door. "Ladies, have you seen the strange situation at Robert's house?" she commented, delicately stirring her sugar into her tea. "His housekeeper is practically living there. And there's a child running around the garden every day." "Living there? How so?" asked Sylvia Moore, owner of a chain of luxury boutiques. "Well, they arrive early in the morning and only leave at night. The woman walks around the house as if she owns it. And Robert is completely changed. Yesterday, I saw him playing with the child in the backyard. Playing. A man of his position." The other women exchanged knowing glances. In their world, social rules were clear and unquestionable. Employees were employees, employers were employers, and mixing those roles was not only inappropriate, but dangerous to the natural order of things. "It must be a housekeeper's scam," whispered Marina Olson, widow of an industrialist. "Beautiful woman, young child, sad story. It's the classic script." Poor Robert. "Men are so naive about these things," sighed Eleanor. "Someone should warn him before it's too late." What the ladies of high society didn't know was that Robert was completely aware that he would be judged. He simply didn't care anymore. For the first time in his life, he had found something genuine, and he wasn't willing to sacrifice it for social conventions. On Monday morning, a week after Camila signed the new contract, Robert arrived home from the office earlier than usual. He found Gabriel in what was now officially his classroom, having his first lesson with Ms. Letitia, a specialized educator whom Robert had hired. "How was your first day of school, architect?" Robert asked, settling into an armchair nearby. "Incredible, Ms. Letitia taught me about big numbers and showed me how to measure things correctly." Gabriel held a ruler and a small square that Robert had bought especially for him. "And did you like the new materials?" "I like them. Now I can draw plans for real houses." Ms. Letitia, a 35-year-old woman with a master's degree in education, watched the interaction with interest. She had been surprised when Robert had contacted her. It wasn't common for businessmen to be so directly involved in the education of employees' children. "Mr. Sterling, may I say that Gabriel is an exceptional child? Very intelligent and curious. With the right encouragement, he can go very far. I'm sure of it, and you can count on me for any materials or activities he needs." Camila appeared at the classroom door, still wearing her new uniform, more elegant than the previous one, befitting her new position as the house administrator. "Dr. Robert, Robert, there's a visitor for you. Mrs. Cavendish, from next door." Robert sighed. He had known Eleanor for years, knew of her reputation as a gossip and control freak. Her visit was certainly not social. "Please send her to the living room. And Camila, thanks for remembering to drop the doctor, but you can just call me Robert. We're all family here." Camila smiled, but Robert noticed a tension in her expression. He imagined she was noticing the stares and comments from the neighborhood. Eleanor Cavendish entered the living room with the pomp of a queen visiting an inferior kingdom. She wore a navy blue Chanel suit, understated but expensive jewelry, and carried an Hermes bag that cost more than Camila's previous annual salary. "Robert, darling, how are you?" She moved to kiss his cheek, but her eyes were already scanning the room for evidence to support her suspicions. "Eleanor, what a surprise. Please, have a seat." "Thank you, darling. You know, I've missed our chats. You've been so busy lately." Robert settled into the armchair opposite her. "I have been busy. Life's changed quite a bit around here." "Oh yes, I've noticed some different activity. You're new. Housekeeper, isn't it? And there's a child, too?" "Gabriel, Camila's son. Incredible boy." Eleanor smiled, but it was a frosty smile. How interesting this new dynamic. It must be complicated mixing personal and professional life like this. Actually, it's been very enriching. "Robert, darling." Eleanor leaned forward, adopting a confidential tone. "May I speak as a friend? As someone who cares about you?" "Of course. Don't you think you're getting too involved? A housekeeper, a child who isn't yours. People are talking." Robert felt his irritation rising, but he kept his voice controlled. "Talking about what exactly?" "Well, you know how people are. Some are saying you're being manipulated. A beautiful woman, a needy child, a sad story. It's a scenario we know well." "Eleanor, I'm going to stop you right there." Robert stood up, his voice taking on a cold authority. "First, Camila is not a housekeeper. She's the manager of my household and someone I have deep respect for. Second, Gabriel is not a needy child. He's an intelligent and special boy who has brought joy to this house. And third, if people are gossiping about my private life, perhaps they should worry more about their own lives." Eleanor blinked, surprised by the sharpness of the reply. "Robert, there's no need to get upset. I'm just trying." "Trying what?" "To save me from being happy." At that moment, Gabriel appeared in the doorway, holding one of his drawings. Seeing the visitor, he became shy and hid behind the doorframe. "Gabriel, come here," Robert called gently. "I want to introduce you to Eleanor." The boy approached slowly, still holding the drawing. Eleanor observed him with an expression that tried to be sympathetic but didn't quite conceal her disapproval. "Hello, darling," she said, her voice overly sweet in the way adults talk to children when they don't really like them. "Hi," Gabriel replied politely, but Robert noticed he didn't smile. "Gabriel, show Eleanor what you drew today." Gabriel extended the paper, showing a colorful floor plan of a house with a garden. "It's the house I'm going to build when I grow up. It will have a big room for Mommy, a classroom for me to teach other children, and an office for Robert to work." Eleanor looked at the drawing with forced politeness. "How creative." "Gabriel is studying basic architecture," Robert explained with evident pride. "He has an impressive spatial perception." "How interesting." Eleanor returned the drawing to Gabriel. "And darling, do you like living here in the big house?" Gabriel looked at her with the seriousness of children who perceive ulterior motives. "I don't live here. I come here every day to study and stay with my friend Robert while Mommy works." "Friend Robert?" Eleanor looked meaningfully at Robert. "Yes, he's my best adult friend. And this is our family home." "Family home," Eleanor repeated, as if the expression had a bad taste. Robert knelt beside Gabriel. "Gabby, can you ask your mother to make you a snack? I think you must be hungry after school." Gabriel nodded and ran off, but Robert noticed he glanced back once, as if sensing that the adults were talking about important things. "Robert," Eleanor began as soon as Gabriel left, "do you realize what you're doing to this child? You're creating expectations that you can't sustain forever." "What expectations?" "That he's part of your family, that he can count on this life. And when you get tired of this family game, what will happen to the boy?" Robert felt anger rising in his chest. "Eleanor, this isn't a game, and I'm not going to get tired." "Robert, be realistic. You're a single, rich, attractive man. One day you'll want to get married for real, have real children. And then, what will you do with this situation? This is my real family." Eleanor laughed, a humorless sound. "Robert, darling, a real family doesn't include housekeepers and children who aren't yours." "Eleanor," Robert's voice grew dangerously low, "I think you'd better leave." "Robert, Now." Eleanor stood up, indignant. "Fine. But Robert, when you return to reality and realize you're being used, don't say no one tried to warn you." After Eleanor left, Robert stood in the living room, trying to control his anger. He knew she had spoken aloud what many people were thinking. He knew there would be social pressure, malicious comments, perhaps even professional consequences. Camila appeared in the doorway, clearly having overheard part of the conversation. "Robert, maybe she's right about some things." "Camila, no. People are talking. Yesterday, when I went to the market with Gabriel, I heard two women gossiping about the housekeeper who scammed the rich businessman." Robert approached her. "And what do you think about that?" I think maybe we should rethink this situation. I don't want people saying bad things about you because of us." "Camila, listen to me carefully. I don't care what people say. I care about what is true. And the truth is that you two have transformed my life for the better. Anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve our attention." "But Robert, no. We're not going to let other people's prejudices destroy what we've built. We are a family, a real family, who loves and cares for each other. And no mean comment will change that." Camila looked at him for a long moment, seeing the determination in his eyes. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." That night, after Camila and Gabriel went home, Robert was alone in the mansion for the first time in weeks. The silence was deafening. He realized how accustomed he had become to the sounds of life. Gabriel's laughter, Camila humming while working, lively conversations during dinner. His phone rang. It was his executive assistant. "Mr. Sterling, I need to inform you about some situations that arose today." "What kind of situations?" "Two important clients expressed concerns about your personal life. And there are rumors circulating in the business community about your new family configuration." Robert sighed. He had expected this to happen, but not so soon. "And what's your professional recommendation?" "Honestly, that you consider an official statement clarifying the situation, or that you reconsider some aspects of this new dynamic. And if I say I'm not going to do either, then we would have to prepare for possible business consequences." After he hung up, Robert looked around his empty house and made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't going to back down. He wasn't going to hide. He was going to face the prejudices head-on and show the world that family wasn't defined by social conventions, but by love, care, and mutual commitment. But first, he needed to make sure Camila and Gabriel were prepared for the impending storm. Because Robert knew that the next few months would test not only his determination but the strength of the bonds they had built. The crisis hit like a hurricane on a Friday morning. Robert was in the company office when his minority partner, Edward Sampson, walked in unannounced, carrying a briefcase full of documents and a grim expression Robert knew all too well. "Robert, we need to talk. Urgently." Edward was a 50-year-old, conservative man who had invested in Robert's company 5 years ago. Although he owned only 30% of the shares, his influence on the board was significant, especially among the more traditional investors. About what? Robert already had an idea, but he asked anyway. About the ticking time bomb that your personal life has become. Edward threw the briefcase on the table. 3 clients canceled contracts this week. The bank is reevaluating our line of credit, and the Japanese investors are asking if they should be concerned about the stability of leadership. Robert opened the briefcase and found screenshots of social media, photos taken by local paparazzi, and even an article on a gossip blog titled, "Millionaire Entrepreneur Lives Romance with Housekeeper." Where did these photos come from? Neighbors, employees from other places, people interested in gossip. "Robert, you're being photographed playing with a child in your backyard, having dinner with a woman everyone knows is your employee. It's all out there." Robert looked at a picture where he was carrying Gabriel on his back through the garden, both laughing. In another context, it would be a beautiful image of a father playing with his son. But there, it was being used as evidence of his supposed instability. "Edward, my personal life doesn't interfere with my professional capacity. It interferes when it affects investor confidence. Robert, you are the face of this company. Your reputation is our reputation. And now competitors are using this against us, saying that you've lost focus, that you're being manipulated." Manipulated by what? By having found happiness. Robert, be realistic. A housekeeper, a single mother, who managed in a few months to convince you to change your entire life. Give her son a private education, promote her. Everyone sees this as a gold digger scheme. Robert stood up, anger boiling in his veins. "Edward, you're talking about my family." "No, Robert. I'm talking about the future of our company. You have 2 options. Either publicly clarify that it's just a different kind of professional relationship, or—" Edward hesitated. "Or what? Or I and the other investors will have to consider a change in company leadership." The silence that followed was charged with tension. Robert understood perfectly what Edward was saying. Choosing between his newly formed family and the business empire he had built. "Are you giving me an ultimatum? I'm trying to save our company. And you too." Robert looked out the office window, watching the Chicago skyline stretch to the horizon. He had built all that with his own hands, dedicated years of his life, sacrificed relationships and personal moments. But now, for the first time, he had something that was worth more than professional success. "Edward, give me 48 hours to think." "Robert, 48 hours. That's what you owe me for all the years we've worked together." That afternoon, Robert arrived home early and found a scene that contrasted brutally with the stress of the office. Gabriel was in the classroom with Ms. Letitia, presenting a project on the house of my dreams, with detailed drawings and elaborate explanations for a 5-year-old. "Robert," Gabriel shouted when he saw him, dropping everything to run and hug him. "Come see my project. I drew a house that has an office connected to the classroom, so you can work and I can study in the same place." Robert hugged Gabriel, feeling the weight of the decisions he needed to make. How could he explain to that child that maybe all of that had to end? "It's incredible, Gabby. You're becoming a better architect than me." Camila appeared at the door, immediately noticing the tension on Robert's face. "Everything all right? Can we talk after Gabriel finishes class?" An hour later, Robert told Camila everything. They were sitting on the back porch, watching Gabriel play in the garden with a remote control car that Robert had bought him. "So that's it," Camila said after hearing everything. "I knew this day would come." Camila: "No, Robert. I knew. People like me don't live fairy tales without consequences." She looked at Gabriel, who was trying to make the car go up a small wooden ramp. "The question is, what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I spent my whole life building this company. It's my legacy, my purpose." "It was your purpose," Camila gently corrected him. "Before you discovered you had other dreams." Robert looked at her, surprised by the wisdom of the observation. How do you always manage to see things so clearly? Because I don't have the luxury of deceiving myself. I've learned that life is made of choices, and every choice has a price. And what would be the price of choosing you? Camila smiled sadly. Robert, you don't need to choose me. You need to choose yourself. The version of yourself you want to be. Gabriel ran up to them, his toy car in hand. Robert, can you help me make a better track? I want to make loops like in real races. Robert looked at the boy, his bright eyes, his complete confidence, his pure joy, and felt something solidify in his chest. Of course, Gabby. Let's build the best toy car track in the world. That night, after Camila and Gabriel left, Robert made his decision. He called Edward. Edward, it's me. I've made my decision. And I choose my family. If that means losing the company, so be it. But I won't give up the people who make me happy because of other people's prejudices. Robert, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Edward, I spent years thinking that success meant numbers in the bank and professional recognition. Now I know that success is waking up every day wanting to live. And I found that here, with them. The investors won't accept this. Then they'll have to make their decisions, just like I made mine. Saturday morning, Robert woke up with a clarity of mind he hadn't felt in years. He brewed special coffee, set the breakfast table on the veranda, and waited for Camila and Gabriel to arrive. What's this surprise? Camila asked, seeing the meticulously set table. A celebration. Of what? Of having survived the first real storm. Robert told her about his decision. I might lose the company. I might have financial problems. I might become persona non grata in Chicago's elite. But I know who I am now, and I know what truly matters. Gabriel, who had been listening attentively, approached Robert. Will you be sad if you lose the company? A little. But do you know what would make me much sadder? Losing you guys. You'll never lose us, Gabriel said with the absolute conviction of children. Families don't get lost. They take care of each other. Camila approached Robert and, for the first time, kissed him. It wasn't a passionate kiss, but a kiss of acknowledgement, of gratitude, of, I see who you really are. Robert, she said when they pulled away, whatever happens with the company, we'll face it together. For real. As a family. Gabriel started jumping for joy. Does that mean you're dating now? Does that mean Robert will be my real dad? Robert knelt in front of Gabriel. Gabby, I can't replace your biological father, but I can promise that I'll be here for you always. I'll protect you. I'll teach you everything I know, and I'll love you as if you were my own son. So you are my real dad, Gabriel said simply. A real dad is someone who cares, not just someone who made the baby. Robert felt tears welling up in his eyes. You're right. I'm your real dad. That Sunday, Robert did something he hadn't done in years. He completely disconnected from work. The three of them spent the whole day together. They built the toy car track Gabriel wanted, cooked together, watched cartoons, had a pillow fight that left the living room in a mess. It was a simple life, but it was real. And for the first time in his adult life, Robert understood the difference between having everything and having what truly matters. Monday morning, he woke up ready to face any consequence of his choice. Because he had learned that some prices are worth paying when what you gain in return is true happiness. But fate still had a few surprises in store for them. And the biggest one would arrive in a way no one expected. Monday arrived with a twist no one could have predicted. Robert was preparing to face the consequences of his decision when he received an unexpected call from Hiroshi Tanaka, the main Japanese investor who had expressed concerns about his personal life. Mr. Sterling, I would like to make an unofficial visit this afternoon. I have something important to discuss. Robert imagined it would be more pressure to change his position, but he accepted the meeting. What he didn't expect was that Tanaka would arrive accompanied by his wife, Yuki, and his 7-year-old daughter, Sakura. Mr. Sterling, Tanaka said when they were received in the living room. I apologize for bringing my family, but they insisted on seeing your home. Robert was confused, but he was cordial. At that moment, Gabriel appeared running from the playroom, stopping abruptly upon seeing the visitors. Hi, Gabriel said shyly, hiding behind Robert. Sakura, the Japanese girl, approached with the natural curiosity of children. Hello, I'm Sakura. Do you live in this big house? I don't live here, but I come here every day. It's our family home, Gabriel replied, echoing the words he had learned. Robert watched Tanaka's expression subtly change. There was genuine interest in his eyes, not judgment. Gabriel, said Robert. How about you show Sakura your playroom? I'm sure she'll like your projects. While the children went off, Yuki addressed Robert in careful English. Excuse my curiosity, Mr. Sterling, but is Gabriel your son? It's a bit of a complicated story, Robert began, but Tanaka interrupted him. Mr. Sterling, may I tell you why we really came here? My wife read the news about your situation and became very interested. In Japan, we have a concept called Kazoku wa Arabu, choosing your family. When Yuki told me about you, she insisted that we come and meet you in person. Robert was surprised. You came here because of the news? Yes, but not for the reasons you imagine, Tanaka continued. Yuki and I adopted Sakura when she was 3. In Japan, we still face prejudice because of it. When we learned that a successful businessman was publicly defending his unconventional family, Yuki said you must be a man of great character. Camila appeared at the entrance of the living room, wearing a simple but elegant dress that Robert had insisted on buying for her. Sorry to interrupt. I've prepared tea and Japanese cookies I got from a specialty store. Very kind, said Yuki, observing Camila with interest. Are you Gabriel's mother? I am, Camila replied with a warm smile. And do you work here too? I do. I'm the household manager. Tanaka and Yuki exchanged a look that Robert couldn't fully interpret, but it seemed positive. At that moment, excited squeals came from the playroom. Gabriel was showing Sakura his architectural drawings, and she was impressed. Papa, Sakura shouted in Japanese, then switched to English. This boy draws houses like you. Tanaka smiled. She said Gabriel draws like me. I'm an architect in my spare time. Gabriel wants to be an architect when he grows up, Robert said proudly. He has an impressive natural talent. The 2 children came running back, Gabriel carrying a new drawing. Robert, Sakura taught me how to draw Japanese gardens. Look how cool. The paper showed a childish, but surprisingly well-structured attempt at a Zen garden with bridges and stones. Very beautiful, Gabby, said Robert, hugging the boy. Tanaka watched the interaction carefully. Mr. Sterling, may I ask a personal question? Of course. How did your family react to these changes in your life? Robert hesitated for a moment. To be honest, Mr. Tanaka, this is my family. Gabriel and Camila. Before them, I had a house, but I didn't have a home. Yuki whispered something to her husband in Japanese. He nodded and addressed Robert. Mr. Sterling, Yuki would like to know more about your story. She works with an organization in Japan that supports unconventional families. She's impressed by the courage you've shown. For the next hour, Robert told the whole story, from the day of the storm to the current pressures from his partners. Tanaka and Yuki listened attentively, asking occasional questions and observing the interactions between Robert, Camila, and Gabriel. Mr. Sterling, Tanaka finally said, may I share a different perspective on your business situation? Please. In Japan, we highly value the concept of personal integrity, reflecting professional capacity. A man who has the courage to defend his family, who makes decisions based on principles rather than convenience, is someone we can trust in business. Robert was surprised. That's different from what my partners have been hearing. Because they're listening to people who judge based on old prejudices. We judge based on character. And Mr. Sterling, you've demonstrated exceptional character. What does that mean practically? Tanaka smiled. It means we're ready to triple our investment in your company. Not in spite of your family situation, but because of it. Robert felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Triple. Yes. And more. We'd like to propose a partnership to develop affordable housing projects in the U.S. Projects that demonstrate that happy homes don't depend on luxury, but on love and care. Camila, who had been listening silently, approached Robert. This means, Robert said, still processing the information, that I'm not going to lose the company. It means we'll be able to do something even bigger. Gabriel, who had only understood that something very good was happening, jumped for joy. Does this mean we'll continue to be a family? Forever, Gabby, Robert said, picking up the boy. Forever. Tanaka stood up. Mr. Sterling, our proposal is serious. We want to formalize everything next week. But first, Yuki has a request. What? She would like you to have dinner with us tomorrow. As a family. Sakura is very excited to play with Gabriel again. Robert looked at Camila, who nodded with a radiant smile. It would be an honor. That night, after the Japanese couple left, the 3 sat in the backyard. Gabriel played with his toy cars between them, while Robert and Camila processed what had happened. Can you believe this? Camila asked. Honestly, no, but it's happening. Robert pulled her closer. Camila, I want to ask you something. What? Robert knelt before her, taking a small box from his pocket that he had bought during lunch, on an impulse that at the time seemed crazy, but now made perfect sense. Robert, Camila whispered. Camila, you and Gabriel have taught me what true love is. You've taught me that family isn't something we're born into, but something we build. Will you officially build our family? Will you marry me? Gabriel stopped playing and looked at the two adults. Does this mean we'll be a real family? With papers and everything? With papers and everything, Robert confirmed, without taking his eyes off Camila. Yes, Camila said, tears running down her face. Yes, I do. Gabriel shouted with joy and threw himself into the middle of their embrace. Now I have a real mom and dad. And Grandma Betty will be so happy. 6 months later, Robert Sterling, Camila Rodriguez, and Gabriel were at a beach in location to be determined. Consider a beach near Chicago or a generic beach setting to avoid cultural specificity, celebrating not only Robert and Camila's wedding, but also Gabriel's official adoption. The ceremony was simple, held on the sand, with Grandma Betty recovered and radiant, the Tanakas who had become great friends, and a few true friends who had appreciated the courage to choose love over conventions. Robert looked at his family, Camila beautiful in her simple dress, Gabriel running on the sand with the other children present, Betty chatting animatedly with Yuki about sweet recipes, and realized he had found something he didn't know he was looking for. What are you thinking about? Camila asked, approaching him. I'm thinking that the storm that brought you to my house was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was just the beginning, said Gabriel, appearing between them with a seashell in his hand. Now we're going to have many adventures together. Robert hugged his family, looking at the horizon where the sun was setting over the sea. She was right. That was only the beginning. The beginning of a life built on solid foundations. Love, respect, mutual care, and the courage to be happy despite the world's prejudices. The company thrived under the new partnership, developing housing projects that proved happy homes could be built with love, regardless of size or luxury. Gabriel grew up dividing his time between regular studies and architecture classes, always with Robert by his side supporting his dreams. And Camila discovered she had a talent for administration, eventually going to college and becoming a minority shareholder in the company. But more important than any professional success was the discovery that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or social recognition. True wealth is waking up every day alongside people who love you for who you are, not what you have. It's having a home filled with laughter, honest conversations, and genuine hugs. It's knowing that, no matter what storms life brings, you won't face them alone. And so, Robert learned that sometimes life's greatest treasure arrives disguised as a rainy morning, a difficult decision, and the courage to open your heart to possibilities he'd never considered. Their life wasn't a fairy tale. They had challenges, arguments, difficult moments like any real family. But they faced everything together, building day by day a love story that proved family is much more than blood ties. It's a daily choice to care for, protect, and love unconditionally. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and if you watched this far, comment, I watched until the end, and leave your opinion on this story. Oh, and don't forget to watch the next video that appears on the end screen. It's very emotional.